I don't believe CJ Hicks played a snap at linebacker last year. I guess when you look back on that, one, are you okay with how that played out? And then two, now, how does he slot into things in 2023? I guess similar to the Sonny question, like, is he a guy you feel like you got to find a role for this year?
You know, CJ, great athlete, really good kid, good energy, good team guy. And I think that is worth saying, right? Because when you're 5-star and Mr. Everything, I think it's it's challenging to come into a top 5 program and not play right away. But he handled it really well. CJ's situation is different because there's a couple guys coming back. There's a lot of experience there. He plays in a position that's closer to the ball. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's some learning, in terms of all the schemes and all the different fits that you get as a linebacker. If you're up front, you're attacking. You can get in pretty early in your career, and if you're on that back end, you have space and distance and all that to figure it out. So I'm really just looking for improvement from CJ, not putting any pressure on him. I'm really just looking for him to improve this spring. I know he's going to have a great career, but I haven't put any kind of timeline on him yet.
You explained the jack position in the past as something that can be maybe a little more simplified, still near the ball, but more simplified sort of existence. Could he potentially do some of that stuff in an effort to give him more?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I have thought about that for CJ because when directed, he's like skilled and he can get from point A to point B quickly. I don't know how much we'll be delving into the jack this spring, but I think it is something good to look at CJ for the fall. But we did not quite use the position as much as I had hoped last year. It just didn't seem to develop with our personnel, and so this spring I want to focus on the fundamentals, of our 4 down and really getting better at the fundamentals. But I see CJ as a candidate and Mitch Melton. And one of the reasons I'm not going to get into it this spring as much is because Mitch, who I thought had a real chance, like he's still coming off that injury and he won't be ready for camp. Go ahead.
Sorry about that, Coach. Fourth row right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Coach, actually, just kind of off that on Mitch Melton. I mean, Ryan Day said he's just doing individual drills a lot this spring. What do you want to see from him as he comes back from the injuries?
Yeah, I want to see him back to where he was, right? So we moved him from linebacker to the front when I got here, and then started experimenting with him in the jack position. And he jumped out. He really did, to Coach Johnson, and to me, and things that he did. So I just want to see him back there. I want to see, okay, has he recovered completely? Is he healthy?
Second row right, Doug Maurice, Cleveland.com.
What does that mean for Jack Sawyer then?
Jack will be just, he'll be an end with JT, you know what I mean? And he'll work on all those fundamentals of being an end. I think that's important for Jack. I feel like he didn't have the improvement or the big jump that he could have last year because he got involved in the jack stuff and maybe he wasn't as focused as he could have been to make those improvements at D-end. So I want to make sure I keep him at D-end opposite JT. The next step and evolution of this defense really starts in the back end. We all know last year and how things went, and everywhere I've been, it's kind of taken me time to get the back end up to, having that confidence to compete. And you bring in 2 guys like that, and it just pushes the other guys see it, and they walk right in, and they're mature, and they're not messing around. They're not a young guy coming in who's kind of feeling these guys aren't messing around, and it pushes everyone.
Jim, last year, Tommy and Steele basically played all the reps at linebacker. Do you envision it staying that way this year, or do you envision trying to rotate guys a little more?
Yeah, I definitely want to rotate them more. I think Cody Simon, with Tommy out this spring, Cody's going to have a big spring, and he's going to put himself in position to play regularly. That's my vision, so that we can have a really nice rotation there, which, when you're playing 14, 15 games, is going to help us at the end of the year. It really is. We need to get Cody to that point where he can play, and rotate with those two guys. And then, when you look at CJ and Gabe, the young guys, you're really looking at that leap from year one to year two. Can they show in the spring, like you said, that they're ready to play? You want those guys to force you to put them on the field by how well they play. But yeah, I'm definitely hopeful we can take some of the reps off of Tommy and Steele, because it'll help us in the end of the season. You say, okay, how did those things fail? Or I look at myself and my calls and how I can kind of change a little bit early on, so that the matchup games, those areas where we let down in one-on-one matchups that were costly, I need to find ways to protect our guys better. But I can't do that like just that week. I think I have to have more of a bigger view, So some of the things that I'm going to put in camp, spring, are geared now more to those matchup games, to avoid those situations where, one error is costly to our defense, and then I have to preach the competition against our offense, because we got a great offense. I feel like I was last year more into the teaching aspect of it to make sure that we got it, understood it, and but now we understand it. I need to ramp up the accountability for competing in practice, one-on-one in all those spots, because every practice for us is like a matchup game, right? These big matchup games. We need to perform better in practice against our offense, and treat that as our practice for when we get to the matchup games.